make a motion. Approval of minutes, and if anyone would like to make a motion and or provide any feedback on the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
Okay, great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, everyone in favor, Susan? Got a thumbs up. Okay, thank you. All right, we are now moving on to waste and water, and this is our old business item, so this was what we reviewed and discussed in detail during our last meeting. And hopefully everyone had a chance to review and look at the great notes. Danielle, that you put together. Really good. Questions? We can go person by person, but if anyone has any questions on, sorry, we're awkward, on the notes and comments and the edits made to the waste and water section. Anyone on the task force have any questions or comments? Great.
No, I think it has the spirit of what I was talking about last time. I mean, there's the language softened a little bit on a couple of things having to do with water, but I understand why. So,
Thank you. Erin? Al? Susan? And Deanna? So we don't have any additional questions from the task force, and we don't have any public comment to entertain at this time. So I believe, are you wanting us to make a motion to approve this current draft?
Sure. I'm not sure we did motions before, but let's go ahead.
Okay. We would like to make a motion to.
I make a motion that we approve that.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone? Susan, thumbs up too? Okay, great.
Right.
Everyone's in favor of approval of the draft, so this took a lot, like, we didn't take much time at all.
This is wonderful because then
We are ran the schedule. So much more efficient. Well, we can, you know, if we think it's high.
I can read the room.
Great. Okay. All right then, so we are moving on to new business, and do we have a preferred order? So I know we have.
yes, I believe Kevin is on a time schedule here, so I think we're going to take Kevin first. So let's see here. Let me get your presentation up here.
You know, if it's helpful, I'm fussing with my computer, which is being cranky with me. I have no time schedule, and I'm happy to be in position 2 or position 3. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, I got your slide up here. So, but you can't you can't see the slides.
Oh, if
you
you'd like
can
to
in the
push,
background.
no, that's great. You pushing the slides works out fine. I'm gonna just make sure that I have my notes in front of me, and I'm happy to go ahead whenever you're ready, and I can just say next slide.
Okay.
Although I can't. Oh yeah, I can if I move. I can actually see, you know, a little bit of the slides in the back. So
Yeah.
that's perfect.
So, a little trickery here. So
It is.
yes.
It's very handy. We call that practical magic.
Yes.
Shall I
Okay,
go ahead?
I'll let you introduce yourself.
Do you mind if I start
Presentation.
for a moment? We all got so excited that we skipped over any staff announcements or committee announcements. So you can either do that now, Kevin, or you can do it after Kevin's presentation.
We can do it after Kevin's.
Yeah, we'll keep going, Kevin. We'll do it after.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, for some reason I'm having trouble hearing you a little bit when it's like the big room echoey thing, but I heard you say go. All right, I'll just start. So Thank you. Thank you for having us here. I'm Kevin Morrison, and I'm the Director of Communications for Ride and Drive Clean. Next slide, please. Very briefly, we're going to cover Ride and Drive Clean itself, make sure everybody knows about it, talk about our programs and events, make sure you know what we can provide to Mill Valley, as well as what we need from you to do our best work together. Next slide, please. Ride and Drive Clean helps to reduce air pollution and carbon emissions by advancing the adoption of electric vehicles and other e-mobility transportation. Our grassroots collaboration educates people about the benefits of replacing fossil fuel vehicles with clean transportation options. Next slide. And we are a campaign founded and managed by Cool the Earth, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization focused on motivating people to take personal action to fight climate change. I'm sure some of you have known Cool the Earth for 15 years now in Marin County, so yay for us. Next slide. 2022 has become the year of Dump the Pump. There's been an enormous surge of interest in EVs, partly because of high gas prices. Although I'm pretty sure that you in this room know a great deal about EVs, the fact is that a lot of people are still getting up to speed, no pun intended. But education and awareness building is, if anything, becoming more important. Next slide, please. Misinformation is everywhere. As Director of Communications at Ride and Drive Clean, I see these things every day on social media. EVs are worse than gas cars for the environment. EVs don't have enough range for travel. EVs run out of power and leave you stranded in traffic. There's nowhere to charge an EV. EVs are going to break the electric grid. And those are just the comments I cherry-picked from self-described environmentalists in Marin. Next slide. So we need to talk about how we combat misinformation. We offer turnkey programs to help people learn about EVs and e-bikes, and we rely a lot on experts from the community, which makes it there's more of a connection between neighbors than there is necessarily between someone who's at the front of a room or at a podium and talking. So we do electric mobility events like EV and e-bike shows. Through surveys, we've found that attendees of EV and e-bike events value the opportunity to go talk with EV and e-bike owners. The same for educational webinars, which include virtual ride and drive events, EV 101s, financial incentives webinars, a bunch of things I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. Next slide. At each of these events, what we do is we offer a pledging opportunity. Studies show that the act of pledging to do something significantly increases the likelihood of doing something. So we track pledges, we also track some other stuff, and report back to you on results. Next slide, please. Speaking of results, we know that for most people, it's a significant transition to switch to driving electric. Many of the people we engage they'll attend several events. The process can take a while. So we offer ongoing communications to make sure everyone who has participated will know about ongoing and future events, even after they've taken the first step. Next slide, please. Now, just in April, this month, 2 in-person EV and e-bike events have been super successful. I actually just left the event at Sports Basement in Novato, where we took over half the parking lot, and well, that's nice. My computer just crashed. Did I mention that it was having trouble? I'm just going to talk to the slides without my notes. Where we had our staff there and a dozen or so electric vehicles, and people could just talk to the owners, talk to the experts, and get to understand what it was like to sit in a vehicle, what it was like to put things in the back of the vehicle and in the front of the vehicle. The frunk, as we now know, is a word. It was a great event, and it was actually smaller than the Civic Center event, which we had on the 9th. That was an awesome event, which I can tell you about because we had partners from Mill Valley and Rotary that included Mill Valley there. And then the important thing to put on your calendar, which you all already have on your calendars, probably in part thanks to Al Grumet, Mill Valley Middle School and the Earth 2050 event coming up on Sunday. It's I want Al to stand up and tell you how awesome it's going to be, and I can see him smiling right now, even though he doesn't know I can see him. Hold on one second. I'm gonna just view my notes here. Yeah, show speaker notes, please. I don't know why things are cranky. They're cranky because that's the way it is sometimes. All right. Next slide, please. In addition to the events and webinars that we do, we're going to create a Mill Valley webpage with custom content, give you EV metrics down to the neighborhood level, information on incentives that are actually surprisingly available to people who are up and down the income spectrum. We provide a guide to public charging in Marin County. We offer custom marketing materials promoting the campaign, the car shows, the webinars. We will give you suggested copy, graphics for your newsletters and social media, video testimonials that come straight out of your own community, targeted emails to the subscriber list we have and which lives within each neighborhood of Mill Valley. We have, I think, among the most robust outreach of any nonprofit I've ever seen. That includes sustainability commissions, or, well, I'm sorry, what are we called here again? Yeah, we include you. Lots of volunteers, community channels. We do organic and paid ads. We do about almost $10,000 a month in Google search ads. Comes to us through a grant in which we use on your behalf. We do ask that you promote, and go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Promote our programs in your newsletters and, oh, I was behind, wasn't I? Well, email, social media, and any other way you can, helping people get involved with the campaign. And go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Yeah, the details we need from you. And I know you're thinking about this for the fall and winter, but gosh, fall and winter are going to be here in no time. Sign contracts with the proposal, specific contracts for your town. We'll give you an invoice when we sign a contract. We'll give you an invoice when it's done. We feature your logo. We've got the webpage that will be super deluxe and fun to look at, in addition to being very practical and offering lots of information for the people of Mill Valley. And that is the breathless 7-minute overview. Next slide, we have someone raising their hand and asking, well, how about questions? Do we have questions? So if you have any questions about Ride and Drive Clean, the programs, the procedures, I am happy to answer them.
Thanks so much, Kevin. I'm going to push the panel.
Kevin, when I got involved with Ride and Drive Clean, I was very impressed by the database for tracking people in the community and their progress towards various EV goals. I wonder if you might spend a moment just highlighting that, because I think it's kind of an advantage that's unique to that organization.
Yeah, because we've been around for so many years as Cool the Earth, then Drive Clean Marin, then Drive Clean Bay Area, now Ride and Drive Clean. We've developed a lot of relationships. In particular, we have a relationship with Salesforce so that we have access to all the tools and technology that Salesforce brings to the table. It gives us a chance to do some custom tracking to slice and dice the data in Marin, in Mill Valley, wherever we need to do that, which is really helpful because you know better than most people that metrics make a difference, that if you spend $5,000, there better be $5,001 worth of payoff or it's a failure. We offer the ability to track those things as part of our basic operations. That the idea of having a Salesforce database, just it translates into email outreach. We do text outreach. There's organic and paid social media on 7 platforms. And all of those things eventually get some sort of metric that organizations find useful, organizations like yours, and then other partners we have like the Bay Area Air District or TAM, or we work with MCE sometimes. There's lots of partners who rely on that sort of back-end infrastructure that we have. Is that what you were asking about, Al? I hope that was what you were asking about.
It was, thank you, Kevin.
I have a question as well. I know you do a lot of outreach and education in the community. And I'm wondering if you could share some of the organization's target metrics.
Share some of the target metrics, did you say?
Right, for ride and drive clean.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is that typically the trajectory is to an EV, and we start with people who are talking about having had a gas car for a long time, making a pledge at an event or at a webinar, and then ending with a sale or acquisition of, whether it's a sale or a lease of an electric vehicle. We're, through the magic of technology, we track all that basically at every step, and we do outreach to make sure that people are telling us where they've gotten to. We're actually starting to do that for e-bikes now because people are starting to commute with e-bikes. And then for that matter, they're also just starting to use e-bikes as a way of running errands and substituting that for what would otherwise have been walking or, well, not walking, but driving or some sort of gas transportation errand. Did that help to answer your question?
Yeah, I was just curious about like target conversion rates and what you were seeing
Oh.
for periods of time.
Oh, yeah. That is, it's an ongoing topic for us. We are like most organizations, we do substantial social media and we look at 20,000 impressions and 450 clicks and go, how can we get from that data to knowing who has reached out to us because of a social media ad, because of an event they attended? And the short answer is it's a lot of work that we're happy to do, but a lot of it is just good old fashioned dotting the I's and crossing the T's, doing follow-up and outreach. We routinely get emails from people who say, by the way, in 2019, I bought a Chevy Bolt because I so liked it at this event you did. So I wanted you to know. And I got that email yesterday. So I'm glad that people self-report. There's only so much we can do with tracking pixels on pages.
Thank you. I know we have a couple of questions in-house too as well, so we can go to you. Urban?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kevin, for your presentation. So I had 2 questions. So one is, as you know, we're working on a climate action plan here in Mill Valley. Part of this plan, I think, is really to try to help us kind of get people converted to doing certain actions in our city. So I think to a certain degree, this thought is going to be at least a launching point for selling certain ideas. And I liked one of your first slides where you talked about, the misconceptions that people have about electric vehicles. And I was wondering if you had kind of like a robust list of those, as well as the answer to the question. Because I hear the same thing, right? That EVs are bad for the environment. Like the breaking point is only up to driven 150,000 miles, and all that kind of stuff. So it would be good to dispel a lot of those myths in our document. We've talked about that kind of did you know? I think that would be useful if you've done a lot of that work. That'd be really helpful. And of course,
Yeah.
full credit for all of that, right? So I think that would be really helpful to share with us, and we can start to develop our own material.
And-
The second thing is,
Uh-huh.
the second thing is just as like a consumer, so I'm happy to announce that we sold a gas car in the last 2 weeks. And so, yeah, so we're in your target market right now. So I was at the event, I ran into Karen Jaber, who was there, who tried to sell me on the car that she has. And, no, it was really a great event, and it's perfect when you're in the market. It's so awesome. However, you might be aware there's like this incredible shortage of cars. That's like the next thing we ran into. Like now we're in the market, we can't actually get one because they're so hard to get. And I'm just wondering, like how you assist. I know that you've got a partnership with Cartelligent, which we've used in the past. We're very, very happy with. So like, for example, this Ioniq 5 was a car that we looked at, we're like, oh, this is great. And then we discovered like a $10,000 markup on it because there's so few of them. I'm just curious, like how you work that, because I think it's a lot of one's difficulty, just kind of like pushing the button, right? I've asked people, it's hard, you know, like you have to go negotiate with the dealer, it doesn't really work with that one. Just if you could explain a little bit more about that, you know.
You know, to be fair, we have a lot of expertise and we crowdsource answers. We have a recent deepened relationship with an EV owner by the name of David Fox. And David, through research and persistence, was able to go from shopping for an EV6, the new Kia. It's an amazing beast. Oh, and he got the top of the line thing with heads up navigation. I was sitting in it and I'm going like, oh my gosh, I see my miles per hour projected, 40 feet in the road in front of me. It's so awesome. Anyway, David Fox went from shopping for it to acquiring it in 6 weeks. And he just got it 2 weeks ago. So there are ways that people are getting vehicles, but we start to share that among our community as quickly as we can. Mill Valley is a great example in my mind of a community that wants to share the love, spread the word, do things that other communities aren't. In fact, one of the things that we are starting to do with some folks in Mill Valley is multi-unit dwellings. Is it a challenge? You're in an apartment, you can't run a cord out of your kitchen to your car in the carport. All of a sudden, multi-unit dwellings in Mill Valley are standing up and offering us solutions that we did not know existed. And so we're partnering with those residents to make that a big message that will go out to not just Marin, but everywhere. It's possible to own an EV and not have it parked in your garage.
I think that's true. You know, the range is so great right now. It's almost as if you could just park it and then when you need to charge it up, you charge it up at a full station and bring it back. So,
True that.
good, thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. You got me excited about the same thing with what Urban was saying, is that I have, I fell for the promotion of a Fisker. So I put my 250 down. I don't know how long that was when the first email first came out. So I'm on the list. I'm getting excited about that. But they're going to start producing one in November. Do I really want the first car or whatever? I don't know. So I'm on this list and I'm like, okay, I better start thinking about where am I going to get the EV, get the charger system set up and everything in the house. And so I always know in the neighborhood when somebody's going to be getting an electric car because Divine Electric van shows up. And then I see that van and I'm like, oh, they must be getting an EV. And then sure enough, they're in there for a few days and then the Tesla shows up. And so I guess my question is on my mind is I want to plan ahead. And I'm starting to get a little, because I was in San Luis Obispo last weekend and the Volvo dealer down there had a couple of the new C40 Volvos there. And I thought, wow, that is a beautiful car. But then I look at the range and it's 200, and then the car that I'm waiting too long for because I'm getting too excited now, it's going to be over 300. And I'm like, okay, it's worth the wait. And I want to be able to drive this slow. I want to be able to drive the Tahoe. I want to be able to do that without having to charge. So I'm getting very excited, but I'm getting a little, I'm like, well, can I buy one free? lease one for a year and then trade it in for something? It's like, I just kind of really, because I'm like, I want to sell the gas car now. But anyway, the point I'm getting at here, is it sounds like you probably have a list of folks that can put in the system, the electrical upgrade to charge your vehicle, because I can't imagine that one that I see in the neighborhood is the most reasonably priced. And how do you find a network? Because I've just gone through my HVAC, my old gas furnace burned out, I replaced that all electric, and then I just did the hot water heater. The problem is that the variation in cost that I've seen is so significant. I mean, it's off by tens of thousands of dollars. People are charging for the same thing differently. So do you have like a network of folks that you could refer to people that are really interested in making this transition and they want to get their electrical system set up for that?
So when you're talking specifically about getting a charging setup at home, I have two pieces of advice. One, be cheap to begin with, like me. I just got a little dongle that went from 110 to 220. It's not dangerous. It takes the 110 charger in my car and allows it to hook up to my dryer hookup in the garage. And so I get twice as fast charging, which you might have expected to spend $1,000, $1,500 more for doing that. And two, after you've done being cheap, and maybe someday I'm going to do this, there are definitely reputable and experienced electricians in Marin that get recommended a little bit under the radar right now, because when you start making recommendations as part of a nonprofit for-profit businesses, and there's just question marks that start getting raised and blah, blah, blah. But we're always happy to help people. And it's usually on an individual basis, because we have to say, look, if you need to get a panel upgrade in your house, we're sorry about that, but it's going to cost you a couple grand, probably. We don't know. And then you still have to put in your infrastructure, and it depends on which one you want to buy. We don't know. In the meantime, I'm sorry, you drive 24 miles a day, you say? Trickle charge. All you need to do is plug it into your wall. So there's this whole array of interaction and helpfulness we try to bring to just that question.
Oh, great. That's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, start thinking simply.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Hey, good. I know Susan, you had a question.
Yeah, a comment and then a question. Just want to make you all aware, maybe Urban especially, and I've sent you an email just because you seem to be in the market for EV, but there's a startup called EV Life, started by some Marin entrepreneurs that helps people find and finance through what they call a climate loan. Yeah, and I made you aware, Kevin, I just sent you a note.
Okay, good.
They bring forward the rebate. They bring forward the rebate as the down payment. It's pretty cool.
What's their name again?
EV Life. And evlife.co. And
That's awesome.
my question, Kevin, nice to see you here.
Nice to be here.
In the presentation you referenced an invoice and contract, and I'm just curious, is this like a service fee as a resource that you're contracting on two cities like Mill Valley, and what would it cost to engage with you on this program, just from a resource perspective?
So, for instance, coming to this, all of the Marin jurisdictions are participating in this sort of March, April push we've been doing to get people into webinars, people into car shows. And that I'm blanking on I don't do the money stuff. I'm just the talky guy, but I'm pretty sure that the contract amount was between 5,000 and 10,000 per jurisdiction. And it kind of does depend. And if there are ways to deepen, strengthen your program and offer more services and abilities that you really want to have, then I'm imagining that will be part of what gets figured out together. It's not necessarily a one size fits all. It's more of a, let's figure out what you need to do, what your budget is, what we can do, how it goes that way. But it's not typically a $50,000 expense. It is typically somewhere in the 5, 10, 15 range, as much as I know.
Okay. And are we trying to make any decision or include that as part of our recommendation? I guess I'm asking more towards the task force. Is that part of what we would be doing?
Oh, yes, you are. You're making a decision tonight. Did no one tell you?
Let me take this back over. No, I think it's just in reflecting the presentations, I should have given a bit of an introduction, are just an example of engagement that occurs currently in Mill Valley and Marin County, and to just think of those perspectives of behavior change, I know is an interest to all of the committee as thinking about those programs that are on the attachment 2 or attachment 3.
Great.
Attachment 3. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the task force members? Thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate you giving us your time.
It's so great to be here. Anytime we can come play in your sandbox, we really relish the opportunity.
Appreciate that. Take care.
Thank
care.
you very
Bye-bye.
much, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, so we can do our announcements at this point and then go to the speaker. Okay. Any announcements? I know some of you may want to talk about Earth Day.
Just want to mention the Earth Day event produced by Green Change, which is a local climate action network that works with lots of great nonprofits, including Resilient Neighborhoods, Drive Clean, Sustainable Valley. We put together an amazing event this Sunday at the community center. So we all see ourselves as ambassadors for that event and invite as many people as possible. There's going to be a lot of great organizations, speakers, live music. It's a really good opportunity to broaden tent and reach people who might not otherwise engage on climate change or sustainability topics. Urban speaking,
You know what, the mayor, I offered the opportunity to the mayor and he took it.
Oh, you took it. Okay, so the mayor will be speaking. Karen will be at the Take Action table. I'll be hosting a series of climate themed games. The neighborhoods will have a table, Sustainable Mill Valley, and we're doing a partnership with Mill Valley Rec Center. So very exciting event. Spread the word. 1 to 5 at the community center with the Ride and Drive Clean event right next door at the middle school. So hopefully everyone walks or bikes there because I guess parking.
Thank you for that. Ashley was going to let you know, Karen, if you need a partner. More about taking out action.
Is there gonna be a dump tank there?
Nova Grillies will be there. So.
I'll just give a quick update on this, as you guys know, I've been working on this, with some partners working on this, gas blower, initiative throughout the county. So we're now to like 9 cities are in the process of putting gas blowers on a ban list. Most recently being Sausalito. Petaluma is going to have it on the council agenda for July. So, and discussion with the mayor as well as one of the council people, Karen Fell, sitting on their agenda as well. So I think at that point, we would put the hard press on the county to finish it up. And again, how do you kind of, be government, but like friendly government there to help, not to beat people up. So next up would then be to roll out like a countywide communication plan, right? So it's gonna like educate people about like why you should want to do this. Why it's bad for the environment, why it's bad for the workers, kind of encourage people to do this. And roll that out and push as hard as we can to try to get everybody to voluntarily make the switch, including homeowners perhaps buying for their corporate. And if all of that, I think you can get kind of like part of the way there. If you can't get 100% of the way there, then the next step will be to kind of put together for money countywide to help fund those who can't afford version, right? stick. So that's going along well, and I'm optimistic that we'll get this thing done this year. So I like to be optimistic.
You know, that's a great incentive, is to have the, I mean, because how much does the homeowner pay for the yard service, and buying one of those used? That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it might be.
And then that would, then it wouldn't be a financial hardship, it would be like, well, we're not gonna do electric. Because our office is doing it, actually twice a day during this whole week. We've got presentations today that set out electrifying everything, and it was a very enthusiastic guy. I mean, Kevin was absolutely brilliant, so that enthusiasm makes me want to go back out and start shopping again. But he was showing all these different products that you could buy for an induction cooktop. It's just 2 burners, and this is what it costs. He had all these different products, every single thing that you could buy to electrify, from the dryer to the heat pump, simple heat pump that you can plug in, and you know, not big systems, but how you could do it now and you could do it on a cheap. And he fired up this electric weed whacker in the, you know, during his presentation, and he goes, "See, they're not that noisy." And it was, he was a character, and he realized that the products are there.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of making everyone.
Yeah, and they're actually better. They've got more power. They're easier to use. They're lighter weight. They're variable speed, right? You turn it off like immediately without having like crank the thing again, like I've had a gas blower, right? So that's pretty awesome. So yeah, we'll get there. It's exciting.
I know this is not a discussion item, but I just wanted to ask if is it limited to gas blowers for the leaf, or is it for any like yard equipment?
So other cities want to really push like all yard equipment, so lawnmowers. We don't have that many lawns. We don't know, so I've not been, you know, sorry, I'm not really pushing that too much. Also, my strategy is like, you know, you go for the thing which you can get done, right? And then you take it from there, right? So this is absolutely a test case as far as I'm concerned, right? So we can do this, we can do something else, right? If we can do it, you know, this way, working collectively throughout the county, then we do other things collectively working throughout the county, right? So I think this is the right way to go about doing these things. I've said this a million times, but I just think that makes sense because we're all one community, right? The air passes back and forth. We're all small towns. We can pool our resources. We can communicate more effectively. We have the same people working in all the towns. So, you know, one message to everybody all at once. I literally think that, you know, once we get the county on board, we go through the proverbial yellow pages. You know, yellow pages are.
Yes.
And go to the proverbial yellow pages, right, under landscaping, and like, you know, send a letter to every single person, right, saying, this is what's going on, right, this is why you should do it. I mean, targeting at that level to kind of get the conversion. So, but you know, for Mill Valleys, I don't know, it won't make a lot of sense. It's like, yeah, you know, but if you got 12 jurisdictions, then it makes sense. Plus, I think we can make like hay kind of maybe nationally about being a county that's kind of, you know, so like there's publicity to be done. So I think this is, you know, you want to kind of get to a certain size and then you can really kind of make something out of this. So.
How am I gonna know when it's Wednesday, when the neighbor come over and they fire up that gas? And I'm like, oh, okay, it's Wednesday.
You know, if you really want to convince yourself that this is a great thing to do, folks, and like Southern California, it's like we're probably crazy, right? It's like you go outside, like everywhere, like Saturday, Sunday, you know, whatever, it's awful. I mean, we're lucky in Mill Valley, right? You're not allowed to do this on Saturdays and Sundays in Mill Valley, right? So if somebody has a foresight to tank with stuff, you know, at least those hours taken out, but other, I mean, it's never felt, right? It's on Saturdays, you can go, have a landscaper show up and others, so.
One thing that might flow from that approach of doing it at scale is taking a page out of Ride and Drive Queen's book with Cartelligent, where they pool the county's car buyers and negotiate favorable prices. So perhaps as part of the carrot approach, someone might, you know, take the lead and negotiate some sort of discounted deal with landscapers who participate in the program. I'm not sure which organization would be the best positioned to do that, but that could be something that's countywide. There could be Just on this tablet.
Great idea. Yeah.
Sounds like you guys should go for coffee. Any other announcements from council members or staff?
Well, I have an announcement that you may already know about. This is, I just checked the date, and it shortly after your last meeting, council adopted an ordinance reducing organic waste. You may have followed that item. It was before council at the March 7th meeting, and so we now have an ordinance that's required under state law. Specifically SB 1383 that requires local agencies, counties, cities to reduce organic waste. The goal is to reduce the emissions of short-lived climate pollutants and subsequently help mitigate the effects of climate change. So it is directly relevant to what you all are doing on the climate action plan. Now it's really up to the city to implement the ordinance. So requires resources, obviously. And we're coordinating, we're actually having a department head meeting on Monday next week to discuss implementation. And some parts of it in terms of enforcement take effect. We have some time, 2024. But this also affects obviously restaurants, any food establishment, grocery stores, but also there's now the diversion of edible component, so that it goes into food banks, and so it's actually the food is used. So anyway, that information is available if you go on to the city's website. The staff report is available to learn more about it. The ordinance is available. That's at March 7th City Council.
Thanks so much, Patrick.
I had one other quick update. My understanding that the county board of supervisors approved the disposable foodware ordinance, the novel ordinance that's referenced in our draft climate action plan that happened today. So I think that kind of aligning with the county and leveraging their resources. Now that's in a further step of implementation.
So I believe that means it will be coming to Mill Valley City Council. I think we have a window between 6 and 8 months to adopt it. And it needs to be the model op ordinance that the county adopted in order for them to do the enforcement. So stay tuned, City Council.
And it's got a 18-month kind of running.
Right. An education component before enforcement starts.
Yeah. Which is great. So any other concerns that people have, businesses, recovering from. Fingers crossed, 18 months from now, we'll hopefully be through all that. So.
Thanks for the comment. Okay. If no other announcements, we'll move on to our next speaker.
All right, so I have to, well, I think Christine has a few words too, but I'm going to introduce Tamara because she deserves a warm introduction. Tamara's amazing. I don't know how else to put it, but she's wonderful. She is the founder of Resilient Neighborhoods. It's in its 12th year. It was founded to empower people to take action to reverse climate change and help communities be more resilient to the impacts of climate-related disasters, including wildfires and flooding. The program and Tamara have been a shining example of work locally to create meaningful change within a household. And that household then relates to the community, and it's a chain reaction. The community then relates to Marin County, and Marin County as a whole then relates to the region. It's been a huge success. I think Christine and I are happy to say that we have been part of Tamara's journey in Resilient Neighborhoods. We helped fund a grant that has helped make Resilient Neighborhoods even more, I think, successful in being able to employ a few more people. And we continue to grow And it's just taking that individual household and making something daunting. I think, Greg, as you mentioned, keeping it simple is something that Tamara is amazing at, and keeping it simple to make those small changes that result in a big change. If you've been through the program, you'll understand what I'm talking about. A few more highlights. I'll go from most recent to back a few years ago, but Tamara in 2021 received the Jefferson Award for Doing Good with KPIX TV. In 2020, she was induced into the Marin Women's Hall of Fame. In 2019, she received Marin Clean Energy's Charles McGlashan Advocacy Reward. And I guess you took a vacation in 2018. No, there's something else there that I don't know. No, okay. I have 2017. 2017, Tamara received the City of San Rafael Citizen of Europe Award, the Chamber of Commerce's Certificate of Recognition, the Marin Conservation Lakes. This is why she needed a vacation in 2018. 2017 was amazing. The Lakes Green Award of Environmental Leadership and a Certificate of Special Congressional Recognition from Jared Huffman. So there's a longer list, but that's all I have time for. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to, I don't know, Christina.
Let's have Tamara talk about the program and then I'll give an update.
Okay.
Is this on or should I? Is this on? No.
No.
Okay. Okay, you can hear me? So I want to correct one thing.
Yes.
I was just inducted into the Marin Women's Hall of Fame 2 weeks ago because of the pandemic. So I've been an inductee for 2 years. It's finally happened. Anyway, great to be here. So this is one of, I think, the first or second in-person meetings I've been to in 2 years. And it's so much, it's wonderful. You guys are like 3D. It's super. Anyway, so I want to tell you about Resilient Neighborhoods and what the organization is. Karen is a graduate. And then tell you a little bit about what we've done in Mill Valley, what we've done overall for the past 12 years, and then talk a little bit about outreach here. Right now?
I don't know. I'll do it.
Okay.
You
all
just
right.
tell me.
So we're Marin based and as founded in 2011, and we offer a comprehensive free program to help Marin households take climate action. Next. Okay, and this is just what Danielle was saying. This is our mission statement, but we actually do both mitigation and adaptation. It's not just one thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Come on.
Okay. Okay, so you all probably know that countywide, the residents are responsible for about 55% of the carbon emissions in the county. And if you include air travel and diet and the purchase of goods and services, which are all part of our individual greenhouse gas, our carbon footprints, it would be up to 75% or more. Okay, so how does our program work? We have households come together and they form a climate action team. They agree to attend 5 meetings and reduce their household carbon footprint by 25% or at least 5,000 pounds, and to earn 4,000 points for building community resilience. This is like emergency preparedness, shopping locally, that kind of thing. And we use behavior change in the program. So we like to talk about it like Weight Watchers. So it's like going on a low carbon diet to lose 5,000 pounds in 60 days. And the first thing you do is you weigh in and you do a survey and get your kilowatt hours and your therms and all that. And we plug it into a carbon calculator and it calculates everything out. And you get your carbon footprint report. That's your starting emissions and allows you to prioritize what you need to work on most in your particular home. So then we have over 100 actions that people can choose from that work for them. And this is to reduce CO2 and also to build resilience. And then we meet every 2 weeks and people take actions in between the meetings or get started on ones that take longer or pledge to do them. And then at the end, everybody weighs in again. They come to the last meeting and report on their household results and the whole team results as a whole. And they get their picture taken as a team and we have a graduation ceremony. So it's lots of fun. So this is what we've accomplished so far. We've had over 1,800 participants, reduced 10.5 million pounds of carbon. Our cities and towns are more resilient and our average household carbon reduction is 36%. We're asking for 25 and it's been ramping up to 36 now. So we're really proud of that. And then one of the reasons this works is because we're doing it together on a team. These are our partners and collaborators, all the cities and towns in the county and the climate action committees or advisory committees or whatever they're called in different places. And these are all the groups and agencies that we work with, promoting events, and they promote ours, promoting rebates, their programs. We link up everybody to what's going on. Okay, so this is about something new that we've just added, and it's in response to this with the IPCC saying it's worse than we thought, and we've got to do things quickly before 2030. And the Secretary General declared a climate emergency, and I know 8 of the 12 jurisdictions in Marin have declared a climate emergency too, including Mill Valley. So because of that,
I regret to inform you that we have
We
not.
have not.
oh, you haven't
Yeah.
yet?
No.
You're one of the 4?
We're one of the 4.
Oh, no.
Our Finance Council.
Oh, dear.
It's on the agenda for tonight.
Okay, we'll send our grads. Okay, so we have had, one of our initiatives is called CPR for the Planet. It's Climate Protection and Resilience for the Planet. And we're one of the 7 approved Drawdown Marin, which is now Marin Can, indoor solutions. And we have a 2023 goal, but our 2030 goal is to have reached 3,700 Marin residents and to hit the 20 million annual pounds of carbon reduction. And that's up to 9,074 metric tons of carbon. So what we're doing now, in addition to our regular program, we have a climate action plan where everybody scores and chooses which actions they're taking and all. We've added a column that's actions they're going to take by 2030. So there's actually a whole planning mechanism in there. As they go through, nobody can do everything, but they can say which actions they're pledging to take. We have them do an appliance inventory. They can choose to do that, but we really encourage them. So you know when all your appliances are going to conk out, right? And then you can start to plan for what you're going to do when you're going to shift to electric. So the whole electrification thing becomes planned out for the households. When you're going to get an EV, we talk about the power box upgrade and all that, because we're looking at your whole house, your whole family. How are you going to get to carbon neutral? And so it's comprehensive, it's everything. And then we're going to be sending out annual reminders to people. We have this wonderful guy, one of our grads has offered, he's been helping us. He's donating like $60,000 a year pro bono time. And he set up this whole, we really have our own application and database that he's done for us. And he's seeing if he can program in automatic emails going to all the households to remind them every year up to 2030. It's awesome. And then we have we call it the Team Toolkit Portal. And it's on our website, and our team members and our grads can go in there and they can look at an action number and they can find everything about it, links to every action, links to Every rebate links to all the resources that you can go to and the things that groups are doing. And it's all right there. We keep it up to date. So when they get the reminder, they can see what they were going to do that year, and they can go into the portal and see exactly what's activated right now and what to do. So that's in the works right now. We're doing it with some current teams. Yeah, okay. So our program is data-driven, and we can provide results to cities and towns. And this is, that's Mayor Kate Cullen there on the right from San Rafael, and she and her daughter Jessie did a program way back when in the early days. Anyway, so we can give feedback on, you know, what's happening with your caps. So just, okay. We also talk about the 6 steps to get to a carbon neutral home. And this is like a whole lifestyle. And the first one is considering the earth and future generations when making a decision. This is not a light action. We've had 98.8% of our households have taken this. It actually shifts how you make decisions and how you live your life. It hits you at the deepest level, and it works its way through families and all too. And so this is like a really, really big shift. So they're learning about, you know, not buying clothes with plastic in them and all of that. And so that's one. Second one, shift to a more plant-based diet and don't waste food. We thought when we introduced this, we didn't think that people would do it, or they would be resentful. No, 82% are changing their diet. So it's really hopeful. We have a graduate making his first vegan meal for his family. Minimize what goes to the landfill, compost, and recycle correctly. 80% of our participants who weren't doing it before have started composting. And we work with Zero Waste Marin, and we can give out these free compost buckets and all of that. And what's really interesting on this, and Patrick, what you were saying about that SB 18 whatever, is I'm thinking one of the problems is going to be getting people in apartment buildings to do the right thing, you know, without contaminating, and to start using that. So if we could contact our renters, like in Mill Valley, we could find out, you know, if we could coordinate that, going back to the people who've gone through the program are already really enthusiastic and they get it, right? And then get them to educate others in their apartment building. So I'm hoping that's something that we can do. Use water sparingly. And these are all the behavior change actions that we have. The bucket brigade is what I call it, you know, and then the built-in water conservation actions. These are really key, and we're emphasizing this. They found in Australia, when they were having a 10-year drought, some people from California flew out there, and they said what they had to do, the most important thing was building in things like faucet aerators and low flow shower heads, things, gray water, all of that, build it into your home, because that's how we're going to have to live. We have to adapt to it. That's what's going on. And little things like, you know, turning the water off when you brush your teeth or faucet aerators. Yeah. And then get around by bike, walking, driving an EV, and taking transit, and reconsider air travel. So the last 3 years, things have really ramped up. 32% of our teams are getting EVs, 144 in the last 3 years. We get people to drive fewer miles, walk, take alternatives, and all these pounds reduction for people who've canceled air flights when they find that the 20% of their carbon emissions stay in the air for 800 years, causing climate change. It makes one reconsider. Okay, and this is a packed one. Power your insulated home with fossil fuel-free energy using energy-efficient electric appliances. So this is, you know, the whole gamut here. 58% of our teams go deep green, 451 households. 266 now have gotten efficient electric appliances, are going electric. We've had energy audits, which is what we encourage at the beginning to find out what's going on in your home, and energy efficiency actions, and 58 have gone solar. And this our team member here in the middle, she just got a new washer and dryer that are Energy Star, and she gets switched to electric. So she's proudly sitting on them. Okay, and then emergency preparedness. We do defensible space and connect people with their neighbors, which is going to be one of the most important things that we need to adapt, because that's when something bad happens, it's the people that live around us that we're going to have for survival in the first hours. So you can see those are the actions, and then building community, like helping cities and towns with their CAPS. That's one of our actions, is actually to do that, and shopping local. Okay. So Mill Valley, I just wanted to give you some highlights. 125 graduates, reduced going on £1 million, and you're the 4th highest municipality in the county in terms of reductions.
We used to be number 1 at one point.
Yeah. Well, that means you can catch up.
That's right.
Okay, and so these are some of our teams. Oh, was that, can you go back one?
Yeah, sure, maybe.
I just wanted to point out Stephanie Moulton Peters and Maggie Lane, right? They were on a pilot during our pilot. And Marilyn Price, I'm sure you guys know her. These were done in their homes.
Yeah.
And this is, and then you've been helping us. We were doing programs in the Mill Valley Public Library, which was really great when we're doing it in person. Next.
And the community center too? Did you do it?
No, just no. And then everybody will recognize Karen and Fabrice in this one. Yeah. Beachside Decarbonators. And then we, obviously with the pandemic, we had to go online. We had to start Zooming. This is the COVID carbon crushers. And you'll see there, we have Trisha Osa and Julie McMillan, who actually is former mayor and on the council of Ross. She did it. And I think there's Dina Berger, if anybody knows her. Anyway, these are some of our online teams. And then this one, I just want to show, I think there's about 3 people in here from Mill Valley. We have Nancy Kevitzer, who's on the council of Belvedere. And I just want to point out, we also have a Rotary challenge going on right now. We've challenged the Rotarians to the 17 in Marin, the 17 clubs, to reduce £1 million by the end of the year. So we've got them going. And so they're on, some of these are from the Rotary too. And we try to make all the boxes unique. So that's why the carbon crushers, they have their mitts and their butterfly nets they brought to the team meeting. Okay, and this is just quickly going through. When we were in person, we worked with community center teams, and I'm just going to zip through these quickly. Public library teams. This is San Anselmo. We met in their history room, and the council invited us out to have their team picture taken with the council in the council chambers. And that's Alexis Feynman, point to her right there, who's now the mayor of Fairfax. All of our team graduates become mayors.
You hear that, Karen?
You're next. And then government teams. This is we've done teams with city employees, and this is San Rafael. This is my favorite team name, the Fettegrini Carbonatas. And Damon Connolly set up a team. He did the first team at the county, the Frank Lloyd Wright, the Planet team, and notice they brought in a cardboard statue of Frank Lloyd Wright for the team picture. And you see your future council member, Max Perret, is in it. And faith-based teams. This is Westminster Presbyterian Church. We met at their church, and their minister blessed the team at the first meeting. Okay, so in terms of outreach, this is what we've been doing. The library, when we were doing teams there, has been promoting the classes. And let's see, we've gotten some into the newsletter, and they're going to you, Danielle. And, I'm not sure they always get put in. I'm wondering if there's somebody else we could send them to that's not.
I wish.
Yeah, wrapped. Yeah, so And then we also helped you recruit people for this task force. Is that how you got in, Karen? Okay. And then just to show you on the top right there, that's our what our current ad looks like for the climate action workshops. The next ones are going to be starting in summer and June. And we've got a new dog to go with our logo, which I think we're going to have a name, the Resilient Neighborhoods Dog Contest. Right. So anyway, so any questions? And then okay, and I just our outreach associate gave me some things to ask for and tell you too. But why don't we go?
On the topic of outreach, I was wondering if you had any interest with working with possibly the high school for recruiting members to that.
Yeah, we did. We did a whole program, a 6-month program with MCEL, Marin School of Environmental Leadership, a few years back. And we were doing it with the students in the class. And our problem was we needed the parents to make the decisions. I mean, the kids can't go home and say, we need a heat pump, water heater. It's like, we have a budget,
Yeah.
So we ended up, and then we had some people come into a team. We had 3 MCEL, their parents and the kids,
Mhm.
and Harita, who's helping with the event. She was one of our graduates from that. Yeah. So, and that's where we had the family, when you
Yeah.
get the parents. So that's what we want to do again.
Mhm.
And that is one of our CPR for the Planet initiatives to do that. So definitely,
Cool.
because, the kids are so fired up. I mean, it's not a kid, but we need to make a difference and we need to do it now.
Yeah.
So the whole family gets involved.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Yes, so thank you so much for that. That was really nice. And so if any of you did not see it, Tamara had a piece in the Marin IJ just a couple days ago. Excellent.
Thank you.
So it's worthwhile. So I had a question. So one of the things that we're trying to do, and you're very data oriented, I was gonna say, for some people who like teach a graduate course of how to do change, because you really got this thing nailed down and how you actually get change to happen, which is really hard. And this is all behavioral changes. And you've really dialed it. So this thing is super impressive. So you want to measure how people reduce their carbon, and we know that 50% is transportation, and we know that switching to biking, right, getting a car, walking more is better, right? So, and hopefully it's some of the reason that's umbrella. So, but kind of think of like, how do you get, especially kids that are going to school, to kind of start thinking about this, because if you can get them early, right, then you can basically change behavior forever. And how do you get, how can you kind of use technology in a smart way to teach that instead of my parents dropping me off at school, if I walk, this is what happens to my carbon footprint. And if I ride my bike, this is what happens. Instead of the same thing with practice, going to sports practice and going to my friends and so forth, right? So that can be very helpful. Of course, like throwing my apple core into a compost bin is also very helpful, right? So, but the transportation part of the particular is big because we also have a transportation issue in this town, like many towns. And I'm just wondering whether your team has thought about that, if you've got ideas about how to do that, because it's a big part of like the nut we're trying to solve in this town with respect to like safe routes to school, this. So it all ties together, right?
So one of our actions is to reduce the miles you drive by 20% a year. And the steps we have in that is to sit down with your family and talk about where you're going, where you're driving, how far it is, and do a plan. Put a note with a magnet up on your refrigerator, and if you've got stuff at CVS, everybody in the family write down what you want at CVS, make one trip, or consolidate trips. And then there was a picture that I showed, I didn't point out, but the woman with, she was in a bike helmet and her daughter was, she's riding bikes with her daughter to school. You know, so she shifted out of that. She says, okay, this is one thing I can do, you know, and she's teaching her daughter to do it too. So, you know, if you get the whole family involved in those decisions and really think about it, and you say, okay, this is our carbon footprint for transportation. So we can get an EV, but look at how much we're driving our gas car right now. What can we do as a family about it?
Great. Have you thought about a technology solution? And a way of like, I hate to say it, gamify it to make it so that it's, you know, becomes a game for the family. It's a way of like, you know, a little bit. So for example, there's an app called Strava, right? So Strava is the way you should run your bike ride. And if you do a certain ride, you know, quickly, or you do it often, you become a local legend, right? So, and I've been thinking that maybe you could adapt the same app for climate change. So if I turn on my phone and I have in my pocket and I drive and I say I got driven to school, that's a certain number of points, right? Or it's a certain carbon footprint. But if I walk or if I ride my bike, it's a different one, right? I actually get positive points, right? So one subtracts one. And if I'm doing this thing, the technology will measure me versus other kids in my class, other kids in my school versus a different school. I mean, you can really try to gamify this whole thing to try to really build awareness. And we all know that biofeedback is so incredibly impactful, right? When you do something, you immediately get feedback, you're like, that's how you change behavior.
Right.
You immediately see, you don't wait for the answer, you see it right away. Anyway.
We'd love to get a grant to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it might be something that we chat about a little bit further if you're interested. You think it's an interesting idea. Because I think there's enough parties circulating around that are kind of interested in this thing, and it just so happens that one of the founders of Strava lives in Mill Valley, and so maybe it's something that they would be interested in is kind of a different way of using the platform, because most of the technology has got to be there, right? I mean, you're basically mapping people and distances, right? You just need to add some math on top of it. So it might be something that you'd be interested in. Chat about a little bit further. I think we can get the safe routes to school people interested in this thing. I think it'd be a way of kind of really making this a tangible thing that people can, again, unify it, kind of measure it, get feedback right away, can quantify things.
Could be in your
precisely
Apple
right.
Watch.
What's that?
Could be in your Apple
Could
Watch.
be in your watch, yeah. It could be in your watch, it could be in your phone, it could be in your Fitbit. I mean, it doesn't have to be an expensive item, right? It could be an inexpensive item also. So you could even do it manually. Say, I know the route to school is a mile, right? I know that I don't have to use something, right? Just type it in.
Interesting.
And, anyway, just something.
I've got an old Nissan Leaf.
Yeah.
And if you drive in the eco mode, it builds trees on the dashboard to reward you.
That's good.
You know, that's a great idea, because I mean, I try to walk and bike and, you know, now that we're back in the city sometimes, I ride my bike back in San Francisco a couple days a week, but, you know, I'm always using Strava. So, I mean, what a great idea that instead of just I buy whatever on Strava, there's also the car, so then you can kind of track everything you're doing, and then you really know, even if it's not competing against, it's like just an awareness, right? Then I would start to feel better myself, going, oh, I am making a difference by not driving to the store and walking and bringing the tote or bringing it back after, or whatever it is. So rather than just, and you quantify it, and we're having to quantify it for the counts a lot of times. So I mean that, and you're doing that.
That's
with
what we
your-
do.
You're
Yeah.
doing that with your groups, but if there was something that helped you do that every time, it would also help encourage you to not push on Strava for the car. Right? You go, well, okay, I'm gonna walk, and then so you put it in the walk mode, and then you keep track of how far you go walking. I can start on with that. You just add a couple things on that same standard.
We're gonna put you in charge of that. Yeah.
Well, Urban probably has the most running miles on the Strava I've ever seen. Yeah, no, I think it's really. I don't know.
I have a question about, and I see your hand, Susan. I have a question about whether you have any ideas or past stories capturing the attention and making an impactful shift in mindset with people who are not on board. Because sometimes I feel like with, changing behavior, it's easy peasy with people who are like, I'm the cheerleader, I'm gonna do this. But then there's plenty of people that don't care, don't feel like they have the time, don't want to put the energy there, have other pressing concerns or other needs. So this falls to the bottom of the pile. Just curious if you have any anecdotal things from your history.
Well, the people that don't care and are kind of the curmudgeon people, probably not going to sign up in the first place. However, in a family, you may get, like, the wife signs up and, she wants to change the diet. And so, of the family, right? But her husband wants to meet every day. So you can get the team can get together and strategize, about what to do. So we have had some success stories where, a vegetarian meal gets slipped in and, so there's like progress. And you have the support of the other people on the team to do it. And then it just becomes like it's something that happens in the family. And we just, I got an email from a recent team graduate a couple of days ago. And she said they were walking in Bon Air Shopping Center, and those who read the IJ every day, anyway, and they saw this, the heating pit with the coals, they had the gas on all the day. They've got one of those in that shopping center. And her husband, who didn't come to all the team meetings, but he said, look at that, that is just outrageous. And he wrote a letter. He called the company, he called the Bon Air Shopping Center, and then wrote a letter into the IJ, and it just got published. And she sent it to me first. She said, look what my husband did, I'm so proud of him. And there it was in the paper, I think, this morning. Yeah, 2 of our team members had something in the paper this morning, 2 of our team grads. Yeah, so it's just the thing that I really like about the program is it's what Danielle was saying. It once you get it, you become contagious, and it passes on. And we even have actions too. Go deep green, and then you get another 2,163 pounds reduction if you get other people to go deep green. So we're motivating and incentivizing people when they see how easy things are, and how, we had one woman, she came back and got 13 compost buckets, and she went through her neighborhood. She was in a neighborhood response group, and she was getting everybody to compost. So it's just, it ripples out
Right,
from when people get it at a deep level and really want to change.
it's a multiplier.
Yeah, multiplier effect, exactly.
Thank you, Susan, and then Al.
Thank you for that, Tamara. I'm so excited to learn about the program and excited to get to talk to you more shortly. My question is just about equity and just how that's factored in, knowing that, some of this costs money to do, and just how is equity playing a part in the program?
Well, we have right now we have a proposal into the Marin Community Foundation that we hope is going to help us with that. We have a 90-minute phone call with next week. But so that's something that we really want to do, and it's part of our strategic plan. And so, should we get this grant, and even if we don't, we'll figure out how to do it somehow. But we want to go into places like, the Canal or Marin City and find out what they want to do. They're concerned about sea level rise, they're concerned about climate change, but that doesn't translate necessarily to our program as it is now. So we would hire somebody and design something that would work for them and also help them be empowered and taking actions. So that's our plan. We just need funding for it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. When I describe resilient neighborhoods to people, I describe it as kind of a best-in-class program that we're very lucky to have in this county.
Oh, thanks.
I really think it's a leader for all the reasons that people mentioned. So my question for you is, what's your punch list of things that the jurisdictions can be doing better to help you scale and amplify your work?
Put it in the newsletter. Danielle.
In the newsletter. And what's interesting too is we'll probably start doing some in-person teams again or hybrids, but we're generally on a quarterly basis. We have fall teams, winter teams, spring teams, and summer teams. And any sort of actions or events, I mean, there could be some coordination, like when we get to mid, let's see, when would that be early May, for instance, we have 2 teams and these people are all going to be working on cars and electrification. And if there are events or if there are, you know, certain things going on, or if you did something here, we could send people to it. And we do now, we let them know all the events are in our newsletter everywhere around Green Changes events. So we're letting people know about it, but at that time, we're really kind of ramping up as these teams go through the process. So it's the inviting, getting the word out, getting people to come. And if you could put us also on your website in the sustainability, you've got a sustainability
I think you're
place.
on there.
She's, I don't know, anyway, that's what Jen said. Check. Anyway, she said, you know, to put us there so we're more visible. And
Can I talk about funding?
yeah, oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, let me,
Yes.
this is a perfect segue. So we've been, the Marine Climate and Energy Partnership has been working with Resilient Neighborhoods for years. And we got a $275,000 grant a few years ago from the California Energy Commission. That was over 2 years. So we were helping to support
great.
them. And that was great, but it's difficult to get grants for this program because, you know, funding sources usually likes to fund something that's kind of new. We called it a pilot program. You only get to do that once, you know, and finding money for ongoing programs is really difficult. Also because they do so many different things. A lot of the funding sources want to just do energy efficiency or just do waste. So it's just kind of been hard finding them funds. We've also been providing them, you know, $25,000 every few years. Whenever we have some additional money at the end of the year, we give it to Resilient Neighborhoods. So just recently, we've been working on this idea of we really wanted to figure out a way to do long-term funding for the program because it's just critical. You can tell just how enthusiastic and the passion that Tamara has and how great they do. And all of our cities and towns just don't, most of them don't have staff to do this kind of work. And doing outreach and education is really critical to meeting our goals. So, so we put together a proposal. We brought us the Marin managers. They kind of gave us the blessing. And so it's going to the Marin General Services Authority Board next month. And that is the, yes, that is the MCEP is a program of MGSA. And so if they approve it, we'll be getting $100,000 annually. We'll be able to provide to Resilient Neighborhoods, and that's about half of their operating budget. So this is in addition to the fees that all of our members pay right now, and it's kind of done by a population basis. So it's really it's great, and that's, you know, something that we're hoping all the cities and towns, all the jurisdictions will be stepping up and contributing. Also, the special districts that work at MCEP that are members at MCEP, TAM, MCE, and MMWD are all members, and they're contributing as well. That's another thing we do.
So it's really wonderful because we've been starting from scratch every year, you know, scrambling, asking for donations and memberships. And we had a great successful fundraising event in 2019. And then the pandemic hit. So this would just to have some, you know, pretty much ongoing support at that level will just be great and will allow us to do look at some new programs. And, you know, if we had, you know, adequate staffing and could really do that, this would be wonderful. Really.
And just to circle back, in addition just to making the changes, because Tamara has metrics, we're able to take and capture those metrics and actually use it towards our climate action plan and look at the reductions as well. So in addition to, making the change, we also get to capture the amount of change, which is something that every program offers, and it's very helpful to try to help illustrate what we're doing within the community.
Our outreach associate also mentioned that she lives in Fairfax and they have a climate implementation committee, I think it's called there. They have their own website and they do their own newsletters. So she suggested if you guys ever do that, that it would be really wonderful for you to help promote us too. And she's got a whole, ads for social media. She gives you a whole package of things you could just plug in and send out, and Green Changes doing that all the time too. So all of our partnerships and Drive Clean, Ride Clean, we're doing all that promoted. So
Well, I have to reiterate what Danielle said, that it's the best program ever. It sounds really hokey, but it's kind of life-changing. And internal, even though everyone in this room knows all the climate stuff, when you go to a meeting and you sit with a group of people for the meetings, and they're very, very intense and they're very numbers oriented, and you quantify them, it really sticks deep inside. And one of the takeaways is they made us write a pledge that within a year you have to make some pledge, and we put it on a postcard, and then it got mailed to us. Right? And I graduated in 2019, and my pledge was, my God, I'm going to get an EV. And so I did. But the lesson learned from that we heard earlier tonight is pledges really work. If people really will write something down and sign their name, they'll do it. So we're going to try that Sunday at the event. But we're talking about how to do more outreach, and you're one of the logical teams that can do outreach. Maybe when we have, I saw on the agenda, Memorial Day pancake breakfast, maybe we talk to people about the value and try and get them to sign up, and try and get, that could be one of our leverage points, because once people get in the program, they're never going back. So do you have the staff to support if we could get people to sign up?
yes, what we've done since we've been online, we've had one of our last teams was 20 people. And we have volunteers that come in. We have a group of the ambassadors, we call them. They're like 10 volunteers that just are, helping us. And they come in and we have breakout rooms. So everybody, that's where the sharing takes place. And we have, the two of us, there are two staff there. And then we have the volunteers do the other breakout rooms. So you can get the bonding, you can get the interaction and the sharing, but you don't have to stretch it out for an hour. It takes a limited amount of time, but you still get that. And we switch the people around so they get to meet everybody. So yeah, yes, we can. Yeah. So that would be great. I just wanted to add one thing to your story. We tell people this is the pledge story. We tell people to bring with them to the next meeting a blank piece of paper and a self-addressed stamped envelope. And they come to the meeting, and then we get to that point and we say, okay, you're going to write a threatening letter to yourself to take your pledges, and we're going to mail it to you in 6 months. That's what Karen was talking about.
It works.
Now we're doing it with email. Write a threatening email to yourself, and we'll send it back to you in 6 months.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. That was excellent.
Thank you again. Fantastic.
Thank you for coming in person.
Yeah, this is like
You know,
really,
It's inspirational for me, and sometimes I feel like I'm out there alone, out in the world of cars like tonight coming over here, I'm walking, trying to walk across the crosswalk and I almost got run over. Unfortunately, I sprinted at the last minute. I'm like, God, it's just really tough being a pedestrian, to do whatever, you know? And then what you're describing is that we're not alone. And
Yes,
that energy that's there and the community that's behind us, it's really comforting to know that. So, thank you.
and
for
we-
everything you do.
we have in the past, we have a holiday party at my house. Fortunately, no, people come at different times, but it's just so wonderful to have all the team members come back and see each other again. And it's really great. So we say, once you're in resilient neighborhoods, you become part of the resilient neighborhoods family. And that we're all in this together and we're all working together to, we're part of the climate solution. So.
Thanks for everything you do.
Okay, so I can do that. Not that I haven't enjoyed myself.
Hold on, let me give you a flashback.
Well, and Urban's right here, he can sign that for the council, right? Sign them all. So what was he just saying, we haven't signed, we haven't joined yet?
There's a deer involved in that story. Sure.
So we have one final teacher person, I think.
Yep.
Our very own Deanna.
So just turn your mic on. Ready? Sure, I think what we wanted just to hear is some opportunities to figure out how we can get into Tam High. Like she was talking about, there's clubs. You know, and things.
I have all my.
You can if you want, or maybe start with like just what's available at the school and then, yeah, it'll be fun.
That's why NRGs would do it, right? Like, we can do it as an NRG. And why don't we do that?
I need they need more traction in that group. And so we're trying to figure out how to get traction and get those trips, right?
Well, one of the things is there is a community section, and she said every one of you has to go and get cert training. And we all did, right? And so we could link all of that together. We did cert training, go to some neighbors. Yeah.
And the whole, and maybe think of I was in neighborhood. And it's that pressure, if you gotta show results. It sounds like you found it, you had that whole week. You know, scale it, week, so you feel that pressure, you gotta perform.
There you go.
Okay. So at TAM, we have 2 different environmental science classes. One of them is mandatory and it's taken sophomore year. And so that class, I've been working with the teacher. She recently came back from maternity leave, so briefly on last year over Zoom, there wasn't a ton on actual environmental aspects, and it turned more into like a plants class. And so that's a whole grade that sort of missed out on the environmental portion of that class. So I've been working with her and a couple other students in the AP Environmental Science class to kind of open up the AP Environmental Science class opportunity to my graduating class, which is class of 2023, kind of missed out on the more environmental aspects of that class. And trying to get more students to enroll in that next year for the senior year, as well as taking courses outside. We have comm classes in environmental science that students can take optional also, but we've seen a lot of students start taking environmental science classes at comm, which was my environmental science teacher was really excited about that. And so that's after the AP class, which sorry, I just got everything backwards. So we're working to open up the AP environmental science class to have an optional part of the class that wouldn't be AP, because the AP aspect is scary, I think, to a lot of students. And so we think that adding an additional environmental science class that didn't have the stress or the AP sort of stigma around it would help to get more students into that class and get that education that was possibly missed out on last year. Another thing at TAM that has been picking up traction is the Surfrider Foundation. I don't know if any of you know what that is exactly, but it's a club. It's not just at TAM, it's all up and down California. And one of my friends is the president of the club, and she has been working with schools from Southern California and the Central Coast to create another class that focuses mainly on coastal environmental sciences, which again would be optional, but the Surfrider Foundation has had a big impact on a lot of environmental science classes, and they do beach cleanups, they test water, and they test water in the bay. Here they've done multiple tests for pollution levels in the bay water and in reservoirs on Mount Tam. And we're looking at outreach for those clubs like Surfrider as well. There's smaller ones that don't have quite as big of an outreach, but have also done a lot of stuff for the environment here in Marin. And yeah, so that's a bit about those classes, clubs, stuff like that. And then I know Urban's brought it up a couple of times, the transportation issue. Recently, TAM announced that they were going to open more parking. So they're tearing down 2 buildings and in the back of the school, and they're looking to build another parking lot. However, the decision has not been made final, and I had spoken to the Tamaulipas Union High School District Director on possibly bringing that issue to the community and having the community's opinions weighted on that, and searching for other possible solutions to the parking and traffic issue rather than just simply opening more parking spots. And I wanted to open that up for a discussion either now or later, because I think that is a very important issue. Another aspect of traffic and driving has been the East Blythefield project, and students, now we've started the Tam High Leadership Committee. It consists of like the student body president, secretary, and as well as 20 or 30 other students. And they have been at the front of the school and as well as the back every morning, just sitting out there offering donuts to students who walk to school or bike or stuff like that. And so, yeah, so they're looking to bring that to a bigger scale rather than just, sitting out in the cold with Safeway donuts. But we have found that especially the freshmen, they will walk at least part of the way in order to get the donut. So, those sort of initiatives that have been taken have been at least somewhat successful so far. And so the leadership committee has been looking to bring that on a larger scale, especially with the East Whitedale project making just way more traffic. That's basically it for the traffic. And so I did want to open up discussion on possible solutions other than another parking lot, if anybody has.
Yeah, so first of all, kudos on the donut idea. And throwing shade on the freshman. That's one thing to get out. But yeah, great supply incentives for people to walk to school, right? So also, and get the freshmen to it, and we'll do the sophomore too. So just one thought on the parking. Yeah, sure. Yes. First of all, so a lot of students they park on Miller Avenue. So capturing more on site and then kind of maybe making it for just upperclassmen or for just seniors, right? Doing it on a lottery basis. Maybe that's maybe you can make this into a win, right? We basically force private parking on, Miller, so we don't have to get lead on to the streets, and then they're all on site, and Tam High that can control right through stickers, right? A way of kind of controlling the actual parking, right? So that's one idea, kind of actually turns into a victory. Second thing is, I think about is part of that parking maybe you're parking for bikes. So that, because I think one of the impediments to riding right now is bikes are built. So I think that's the problem that a lot of kids have, right? They ride to school, but they don't want to ride their bike, and then if they do, it's hurt off, and then that's the end of that. So anyway, so those might be two things that you can think about.
On the, right now, there's, I think, 150 bike, bike rack. So about 150 spots, and it's in sort of like a cage.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so they
it's
lock
perfect.
that. They lock that at the beginning of the school day and then unlock it about 10 minutes before school ends. And so that has, that's been pretty successful. They put that in 2 or 3 years ago, I think. And that has been, a lot of bike theft has been prevented by that.
Yeah.
Great. And is that pretty?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So do you think you need more, or do you think that's sufficient?
It seems to be pretty sufficient. I'm not sure exactly how many more people would ride their bike if there was more available bike parking. But that is something that we can look into.
Yeah.
And
I mean, have you thought about like grabbing freshmen with donuts and kind of doing little focus groups with them to find out, hey, like, what would it take for you to ride your bike to school, or if not get driven to school?
Yeah.
What is the thing that's stopping you from doing that? And just kind of go through a structured number of questions and see what the impediments are. Maybe do that with freshmen, do it with sophomores, and see what you come up with, right? Like that kind of is the reduce those impediments. By parking not one of them, maybe it's something haven't bothered.
I want to make sure that we get to, like, it's really fun to do all the solutioning stuff. But I want to make sure we get to everyone's questions.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming, bringing the presentation and talking through. I definitely have questions, and I think a few others do as well. We talked through a number of topics, and I'm curious with respect to the coursework that you were talking about. It sounds like that's relatively new. in terms of bringing environmental science as new coursework for students. And I wondered if that is something that's across the district or is that specific to town?
So if TAM were to do that, it would likely be district-wide, just because most decisions are made based on the whole district. So that is something we would have to take up with the TUHSD board. But TAM can sort of be like a leading factor in that, and depending on the support it gets, can sort of lead the whole.
Yeah,
district for that.
take the lead on
Yeah.
that. Yeah, definitely call on any of us for support with respect to, helping push that forward. That's a really good idea. And then I'm very sad to hear about the idea of demolishing buildings for new parking. I'm sure everyone is. I guess the first question is, are they open to hearing from the community? Are they open to hearing from the CAP and from the city council and city staff on this?
I will just say thank you for the heads up. And they have done this to us before, this being the city. I think 3 or 4 years ago, they proposed a parking lot, and that was with the tennis courts.
Yeah.
And we needed to let them know that they needed to go through the city of Mill Valley for anything that's not related to education, and parking lots are not. So I appreciate that. Environmental will be required, so we will be contacting the district. So thank you for the heads up.
Well, and also in addition to the staff order that Dan was about to issue, there are a lot of really great productive ideas about with respect to incentives and the work that Safe Routes does and their dot matrix and around, when it makes sense to be a driver and when it doesn't, and having parking spots assigned and stickers and all those things. Like there's Redwood's doing something around that. Like there's ideas and opinions, and it would be great if they could, they're gonna hear from the city, obviously, but to have a more public forum around it and, would be open up to how do we solve for this versus it's just open up parking. So thank you for voicing your opinion and letting us know. Surfrider Foundation, I just wanted to say that I do follow that group on Instagram, so I really appreciate that because, and occasionally my teenagers will go want to swim at Three Wells or the Strawberry Docks. And I'm like, did you look at the numbers that just got published on the bacteria levels? So that's such great work and a really small way they're informing the community. And I'm sure there's a ton more you're doing that. Any questions, Don?
Yeah, first, I just want to say it's amazing to hear how you brought the work that you've done with the CAP task force back to your school environment, and the insights on the parking and the insights on the curriculum are really terrific. So thank you for that work. And this is more of a question for the task force. As it relates to curriculum at Town High, what influence, if any, does a group like this potentially have? Is it about understanding when issues are coming up and mobilizing members of the community? So not necessarily a city function, but more a grassroots community function, or is there a role in the city?
Yeah, I think, having a connection with the right people is important. And, that's what it's about. It's being a connection with the teachers and, someone that goes to the school, but the students change. So like I'm hearing about this leadership committee. This would, this is a great connection that we should tap into and make sure that we can have some coordination on that. But then when it comes down to curriculum, that's something that I think we need to have a liaison, such as Fiona, that gets us in touch with those teachers so they know the opportunities that are out there. When Bothan Marsh was doing the sea level rise things, and they had the little glasses out there. You know, we tried to connect with the school district then, but you know, their curriculum's pretty set, I have to say, in the beginning of the year, so it does make it challenging. But I think for them to understand the opportunities that are out there, such as resilient neighborhoods, and understand what it is, provides them an opportunity to have some of that happen. I don't know if that helps.
Does he see them?
She is, she's just, her camera's not on.
Yeah, thank you for, I mean, it's not easy to try to help encourage change, especially, you know, in your group. So the fact that you're keeping that motivation, and the more students that you get to join you, then it is just going to make it easier, but somebody has to start it. So I really appreciate that, because I know that is a very important time to get that message. And my daughter was influenced by her environmental science teacher at town. My son, not so much, who's older, but my daughter's always reminded me of certain things related, you know, to carbon. And so she's been encouraging me, but it's just, I mean, it's huge that you're there, aware of what's going on, can help keep the, getting the message out. This is all about outreach, and that's it. You can't just graduate and go off to college and not have that awareness. It's good that you're starting early with that. So keep that up.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thanks, Fiona. Okay, so I think we actually, what were you gonna say?
Oh, that we were ahead of schedule, and now we're behind schedule, so in any case. On to attachment 2, which is community engagement action.
Are we gonna have a presentation on this at all, or is this more for discussion?
No, it's new business, so I thought the presentations might help understand the things that are happening in town, and then to just, you know, talk about the engagement pieces. And then I also provided the additional sections, because there is some overlap between engagement and implementation monitoring. I know there's, you know, some interest in this idea of ongoing task force, stuff like that. So with that, I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, we thought that we would just discuss the draft community engagement actions as part of this agenda item. I think we haven't had enough background information at this point.
I did have a question about, well, I guess a couple on the same topic. There was a suggestion about using the fireman's breakfast, or pancake breakfast,
Pancake breakfast.
as a opportunity where there's going to be a lot of people there to potentially introduce parties. I wasn't quite
Yeah,
sure.
so the pancake breakfast, I thought, could be an opportunity. Just typically, we do not have anything on the lawn associated. We try to keep it very neutral, pancake breakfast, but there's a lot going on in town. Miller Avenue was the other time that I have gone out to the lawn and kind of use the spot when you're not really, we try to keep it neutral. But I was thinking for this year, there's housing going on, the housing element, there's one Hamilton, and there's also the draft climate action plan. So I thought it might be a time that I could be out there to provide information and advertise the fact that we'll have one last meeting and invite people to attend the last meeting. Hopefully it's the last meeting, or, you know, whatever, the close to last meeting of the climate action plan. So the idea was just to provide information on the climate action plan.
Got it. Okay. like a pass by will be something that I.
Yes.
And then, so related to that, the broader, like more formally organized community meeting to review sections and give people, stickies and that whole thing. Do we have a sense for the timing?
Right, in thinking about that more, I don't know how much more. The public's invited to these meetings and we have not received very much public input. Our idea and to keep this rolling would be to gather the draft and have a study session at Planning Commission and invite the public as part of that meeting and the study session to provide additional input. So we can talk about that if, you'd rather have boards and stickies versus the draft that's reviewed at Planning Commission. But at this point, I just think we need the public to show up, and I'm not sure that the format matters as much as just the advertising and inviting people to see the draft and provide input.
Yeah, I guess from Christine, just curious, especially since Christine, you've done this in other communities, if you have any thoughts on the absence of public, as well as the risk of not giving that one last opportunity to bring a larger group in to weigh in on what we're publishing.
Yeah, it really depends on the community, how many people come to the workshops. I've done them where we've only had, 20 people come to a workshop, so that can be an issue. I think what we're running into is that the draft will be ready in June. And so the workshop would follow that, will be in the summer. So we're looking at July and August, for a workshop, and it's not the best time to hold a workshop. So I am kind of, just because of the timing, a little concerned that we won't get a lot of participants at the workshop. So I think that's why Danielle is proposing this idea of just trying to use the pancake breakfast to kind of spread the word, get people to come to a planning commission meeting and have a study session there. We could also put information, put the draft up on the website, use the website to get people to provide comments as well. So.
No, I'm just curious if we should be utilizing other forms or formats. I mean, there's enough happening in the city of Rhode Island where there's so much being published about it, but there's always quite a few people who are like, what's happening on these sites now? Why don't I check it? Because they just somehow didn't see any of the information. So I trust you guys. You have great judgment around this. You've had enough experience to your best. Just want to make sure we were.
The other thing we could do is a webinar.
Mhm.
And, we could do a Zoom webinar, and we tend to get more people to come to webinars than we do in-person events. So I know. So that might be one thing to try.
That's
And-
exactly
and
what I
that
was
way-
gonna say.
Yeah, and that way we can present, we can do an overview, and I have done these for like the county and other communities. Provide an overview, and then we can do some survey questions and do some live polling during the webinar too, and get feedback on some of the more, some of the more, I don't want to use the word controversial, but some of the programs where we're really pushing the envelope a little bit and
That is
understand
a
what
great
kind of,
idea. Have you used the live surveys before?
yeah, the live polling at Zoom works really
That's right.
well.
That would be. so
It's kind of,
great.
it's a fun way to,
Yeah.
get immediate feedback and keep people engaged and interested, and rather than just, talking at them for an hour.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe we should look at that.
Mhm.
And if we do that it helps, online at least makes it more efficient, and we can think about doing that for the end of the meeting, one of the next few meetings as well. The online makes it so much more efficient in terms of gathering input and collecting input, especially with the public. So we can work on that as part of the next steps of wrapping up the draft, or putting the draft together.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm curious, Susan can tell us later what the experience has been like. That, you know, she zoomed in and we're all here, and I know that can be really tough. And it's worked really well on Zoom. Yeah, not a bad idea. Al?
I wanted to put out an idea that relates to community engagement and might be a little different than what we've seen from other jurisdictions. Would it be possible and within the scope of what this task force could do for us to issue a climate emergency resolution as a task force and accompany the CAP draft that we're putting forth with that resolution, and invite people from the community in using that here we're representing the community, and we are concerned to a level where we are stepping out and saying this is an emergency, and you need to roll up your sleeves and understand what we're doing. So please attend this webinar, please provide input, and here's what we're thinking is an appropriate response to this emergency.
Mhm. What do you think, Danielle? I know we talked about the fact that we had not adopted that for the city of Mill Valley.
Well, it wouldn't be a city, I mean, it would be from the task force. Because we can't issue one on behalf of the city, that has to go through the city council. But as a body that's constituted by the city, that's producing a report and a recommendation to the community and to the city council, we can declare a climate emergency and have that as part of our report. I don't personally see an obstacle to that, but I wanted to put it out there to see what others thought.
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of process it in my mind, knowing that in my experience, obviously we have appointed bodies like the planning commission, Parks commission, that are authorized to render a resolution. The commission, for example, can adopt a resolution for discretionary matters that are before the planning commission, like Senator Parson Act, for example. This body would be unusual in my mind, perhaps something that could run past the city attorney in terms of procedural, something of that nature, and maybe as a statement by this committee versus a resolution. Because resolution, in my mind, is a legal document. That council is authorized to adopt, obviously, and the planning commission or Parks commission, for example. But maybe it's some sort of a statement that comes from this committee, but not in the way of a resolution. That comes to mind. And how that is published, then maybe it's through the way staff will be going about getting the word out to Connect, for example. I'm kind of picturing in my mind, we have a list of contacts. I mean, design professionals really should be aware of this, and I'm not sure to what extent they are. So when we, there's publications and information out that we have our usual interested parties list that we should reach out to here before they get known there to follow up. But I'm not getting most of that mic if you haven't got some.
I just, I wonder if it's more of if the task force just decided to make a recommendation, if they are interested in the resolution, to include it as part of a CAP, as part of implementation, or, if it's engagement, but it would be something that you would then work as the committee, then you would be staying in your role as part of the climate action plan, but you're also recommending that the climate action plan include this concept of including the resolution for city council to consider adoption. That might be an approach to think about, because that would stay within basically the role of the task force, which is putting together the climate action plan.
I understand what you're saying, Patrick, but we have the recommendations in there, adopt an ordinance or study something with the goal of adopting an ordinance, but it seems like having that recommendation in there in some way, that would maybe lead to the planning commission considering it and city council considering it. I mean, they can not adopt it, but it seems like it sends a message. I think it's a good idea. And we do that in a way that doesn't trigger. I don't know, at some point, we just have to stop worrying about what's gonna happen if we don't do something, we have to do something. So I think it's a great idea, especially if it might take some time for council to get to that point politically. And then, to put it in there as a recommendation.
So maybe we could table it and then bring it back as how it could be. Well, first, I think maybe tonight you could talk about if each member would be interested in being in favor of doing something like this resolution. I don't even know if any of you have seen the resolution, so maybe this should be tabled until the next meeting where you can see the resolution and there can be a potential way of incorporating it into the draft that can be talked about as an agenda item.
Yeah, it's a good idea, unless it's something we can bring up now, it's not being long. It's up to you.
Well, it's not really part of
It's not
the
a
agenda,
resolution, I know.
and it's not part of the agenda. So I prefer maybe we stick with the agenda. We look at the community engagement actions that we have. If you can approve the draft community engagement actions tonight, then we can talk about the next steps in terms of what's left. That would include this idea of the resolution, but then the addition, working towards the next few meetings, so we all understand how we can accomplish what we're trying to do and finish it. And I see Susan has her hand raised.
Susan?
Yes. Lowering hands. I just had a couple minor comments on the draft language. The first sentence, work with community. May I give those comments? Is that appropriate right now?
Yeah, we can start with that because that's our
Okay.
plan.
Work with community-based organizations. I would want to broaden that to be, include private, public, just all the entities, because there's plenty of other entities that are interested in educating and motivating and engaging. So that would be one thing. And then the notion, the second part, that implement a countywide, community-wide campaign. I know this is super nitpicky, but it's because I have a vision of certain things that I want to see happen. I would suggest maybe framing that as like a series of campaigns, plural, and the reason being, I don't think one campaign is going to do it all, and I think we should be prepared to take, have a lot of different ways of coming at this, and just being clear, like, this is not one giant Uber campaign that never ends. And I think that what I'm referring to there, there's a group that did some campaigns on the East Coast called Solarize. And there's also one here, Sun Shares or Soul Shares. I'm talking to them this week, but they both seem to have found that if you put make those campaigns time bound, people will respond much more if there's a clear deadline and it's not going to last that long and it's focused. So I just wanted to reflect that in the language just by using the word, by the suggestions I made about a series of discrete campaigns or something along those lines. That is all.
Sorry, what section is that in that you're, I see you have a.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see on the screen, Susan, I made I think the change edits you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you.
Implement public outreach and behavior change campaigns.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I want to just do a roundtable to make sure there are, that when there's an opportunity to weigh in, if you have any comments or ask questions on the draft engagement. Yeah. Okay.
Just to say that a lot of these things are identical. They're county-wide. You know,
Sorry, can you speak up a little? It's not coming through.
and a lot of these things are really countywide. It's just, you know, great efficiency, right? When communicating these things out, so we're talking about, you know, efficiency, transportation. You know, we can do all this kind of effectively, right? Everyone's count in place, right? So we're all trying to accomplish the exact same thing in every single town. So I guess the only comment I have on this whole page, we should broaden this thing out, right? And try to understand the benefit of the to really, that's just going to be effective. And it's, as you just mentioned, it's really hard to get people's attention within the city of Nova Valley. We can't get them aware that these plans are going to be ripped up until little at a point that it's happening. So I think we can do that more effectively in that work basis. So what I would want to do is.
Yeah, no, that's something good plan. What we've been, I mean, that's the speakers that were here are all working on a county level, right? And they area level as well, so just expand it.
Yeah, and there's these great organizations that are going out and pulling people together, right? Like, for example, the Bush Day, and just like fantastic opportunity to do that. These drive in the Bay Area events, opportunities to do this. We have to engage, like, right? We have to engage like the IJ and organizations like that to write about this, because they can really start to reach a lot of people. You know, MV Connect, which I love and I read, but you know, I'm not sure that's reaching everybody. Right, and engaging people.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we've, it's part of Marin Climate and Energy Partnership. We've grappled with outreach and trying to make sure we're all messaging, but, you know, having a calendar, understanding things that happen every year around the same time, or, you know, waste related to the holiday seasons, things like that. We've definitely have talked about that, but to continue that conversation and this idea of this countywide outreach on the different things. And we're doing it a little bit with Drive Clean Marin because it's a big event and we're all subscribed to. That's something that I think we're continuing to talk about and how we can work together to push out the information. And if you're pushing it all out, the same information, people start to hear it because it's everywhere.
Right, and so when you push it out, not to get too weak, but it has to be like super simplified. Like, I think the most effective thing I saw early on when we started working on this, and I'm sure, but is like we were, you know, like, so what do? You know, like, what is the action that you can take, right? And there's that very simple, I can find it around it, very simple table says, you know, your next car should be electric, right? Everybody gets an electric car in the next 8 years, check, right? And when the appliances die, you know, she check, you should put a compost in by your sink, check, that's it, right? And like, if we actually got people to do those 3 things, we would have hit it out of the park, right? So I think, you know, coming up with a smart communication that's very, you know, focused, right? I mean, it's like every crappy politician can be successful if they pound on 3 messages, right? We've seen this over and over again. So we have to just take that page of the playbook, right? Because it works, right? And if you get too weak, you got a 25-point plan, it doesn't work, right? Nobody takes the patience for that. So I think we can focus on the good, and I think we're all kind of like at the same point because we've not worked with every community, like we're one of the communities to do. So I think we're all teed up now to kind of take this thing to the next level. So I think, you know, once we're, you know, we have our plan done in our city, I think we're going to be ready to kind of really do that.
So I have a question and a comment. All of those items are fine, and bringing it back to Mill Valley, what bothers me, there's no one here in the room, and everyone has their little pet projects. So Danielle, you mentioned we got East Blythedale. Now everyone knows about that, right? There's a community meeting about that on Thursday. And a lot of people, you know, I said on Nextdoor, if you're mad, I'm in a community meeting on Thursday and let's talk about it. And they're like, what community meeting? But so there's East Blythedale. There's one Hamilton, there's meetings going on about that all the time. And here we have this outreach we want to do. I would love to see or me, anyone, I would love to see someone start out every meeting with, before we, like the one Hamilton meeting I was at last week, I went up and asked the architect, are you gonna have all green, all electric? What are you gonna have for bike parking? You know, I asked all the questions that have been here, and he answered all of them, right? No one in the room heard it. And I would like to see the meeting start with, hey, we're working on a climate action plan as a city. We're in an emergency. Do 3 minutes of education before we ever get to, you know, they went on and on about parking. And I wanted to, I didn't say anything because it was my particular neighborhood, but there's a way, I believe, that every time when we have at East Whitedale, hey, before we get into all your complaints about traffic, let's talk about, we're in a climate emergency. Can some of you take the opportunity to walk, ride, and that will not only save you an hour of frustration. You know, I think it's a marketing opportunity. Everyone has their pet peeves, and they could care less about this right now. They haven't put it on the front burner. They only have these other problems. So is there a way we can introduce that at different meetings? Or should one of us? It's a discussion.
Well, I think that's how some cities who have passed climate emergency resolutions have approached that problem, because it's a mandate that comes from city council that requires all decisions to be made through the lens of the climate action, the climate emergency. So if you see a typical climate emergency resolution, it says all city decisions must be made factoring in climate. And so that filters down to every city committee, task force, etc.
And we do it without it. When we have some of these meetings.
The Hamlet Drive meeting I went to, that audience was not going to listen to that message. They were like pretty focused on the topic at hand. And I hear you on parking, but you live in that neighborhood, right? Your neighbors are laser focused on, you know, cars, right? So,
Right.
you know, I try to explain how when I was a coach, I carpooled and put, you know, get in my car and drove them all around. You know, nobody cares because that's just not what I want to hear. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like there's like a plethora of issues, right, that the city is trying to do. And, you know, but other people,
Right.
you know, talking about that every opportunity we get.
Right.
You know, talking about the housing element, and other people are saying, hey, you know, meeting, right? It's like, so, everybody's got their thing. You know, again, you gotta kind of, you can't overload people. Limited bandwidth, right? You know, how much time did you spend, you know, thinking about what city council, planning commission, or climate action plan was doing before you got on this task force? I can answer that question myself, like zero, like literally zero, right? So you become super involved and, you know, you get plunged to something and suddenly like, oh my God, all this stuff. So getting everybody else is hard. That's why you have to simplify it and really make it very tangible.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
I am picturing you all kind of sitting back in your chairs as we get tireder, and it's getting all of a sudden very hard to hear you. If you can just project out to your mic.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
So yeah, it's a challenge. I think, you know, in terms of like what we do right here, I mean, I think it's a good idea to go around with a pancake breakfast. I think that maybe we do like a little thing on the square. You know, and I think, you know, how's it go to the planning commission, right? Planning commission meetings can be, you know, we we can pair it with 575 East Blythedale, right? That would.
Maybe a little roadshow, you know?
You know, Alvaro has a good point, is because you don't have to, and it, you know, I mean, on the planning commission, I've probably been too long-winded at this, but when we get to questions for the applicant, instead of going to deliberations and I bring up sustainability, I start asking all those questions then. Now, the sad thing is that they don't get in the meeting notes because they're not part of deliberation. But, you know, the current chair, Aaron Lynch, is talking about how important that is to have that discussion with the applicant, with the architects, because a lot of the architects are used to just doing what the owners are asking them to do, and they're not used to maybe having the owner ask them to do those things. But I've noticed that it's making everybody more open to it. And maybe, as Al mentioned, if it's just really short and sweet, and they say something about, yes, I know there's a lot of concern about parking and traffic, but if you were in this, and you can't deny that we're not in a final emergency. So if you do that and have that discussion, people, as they're concerned about where they're going to put their car or where the cars are going to park and how to park, that could at least be something that, and maybe it just goes into subconscious. So the next time they're thinking about where they get their car, I don't know, but I have to do, at some point we have to do something, and that has to be the driver.
Well, I mean, one thing that could complement or be an alternative to a climate emergency resolution is the city could adopt the practice of any time it constitutes a new committee or task force or has a new group, it could do a brief climate training of those individuals. When I worked in a corporate environment, you know, they wanted to address how people thought about diversity or sexual harassment, or you name the topic, you would go through a training, and that training gave you the background and information necessary to tread more thoughtfully when you conduct business. And so if we are in fact in an emergency where only a small percentage of the community is engaged at the level that we think is necessary, one way to do that is for the government bodies that are implementing policy and doing things on programming, maybe introduce some training.
So that's the beauty of it being in the general plan, that the general plan, yes, is something that's one of the first documents that Planning Commission receives, as well as, you know, BPAC should be looking at the general plan and things that go with it. And then all our city council staff reports at the end, there's a general plan consistency. So, you know, those items are mentioned in the programs when there's things. So the general plan and having the climate action plan as part of the general plan does bolster those policies and programs up to have those as part of the ongoing conversation for sure. I agree. I'm hoping we could circle back, and you took a motion last time on the old business to approve the program. So maybe we could see if you're ready to take a motion for
Yeah, I was just gonna
attachment 3.
start with that you will be distributing the comments or the resolution on the emergency. The next meeting, that is potentially something we will add into the draft at a later date. Okay. So we can review that for next time. And then I believe everyone had an opportunity to ask their questions and comment on the draft community engagement action. Are we ready to make a motion to approve this draft?
Hold on, Susan has her hand
I'm
raised.
just trying to follow along. So there was a reference to attachment 3, which is not.
I think it says attachment 2, and I apologize. There's 2 attachment 2s.
So we're talking, okay, so.
What we were just looking at, the engagement piece.
Yeah, that's the one we're getting ready to take a motion on.
Correct.
Okay.
With the modifications that we just went through based on your comments.
Perfect, thank you.
Including the expansion to the greater county and Bay Area.
I'll make a motion motion to approve this.
In favor?
Right.
Great. Let's do this. No, I think that's all we're doing tonight.
So yeah, then I think we just need to talk about, given the time, yeah, it's 8:35, just how we want to go about thinking about the next few meetings and this idea of sequestration, adaptation, implementation and monitoring. Personally, I think sequestration and adaptation is similar to the community engagement, that it's countywide, that we're looking at the lens. So I'm hoping that we can adopt something similar to what you've received. Those programs really need to be at a countywide level. With that understanding, we've invited Chris Chu from Marin County to talk about some of the adaptation strategies and work that's going on, particularly with Botham Marsh in that area. So that's our idea for May 18th. And then as well as that, we will add the remaining programs, which you have. I'll also bring the resolution that can be a discussion item of where that should, if there's interest, be part of the CAP. And that would get us in a place, then we can, Christine and I can talk about implementation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can have that.
Okay, and that will get us to May 31st for the pancake breakfast.
For sequestration, will there be anyone be able to speak to some of that stuff? Can type actions or things that the county is doing? Because I know that there have been certain things that have happened over time that groups like Sustainable Mill Valley and other environmental groups have had a little bit with DPW, specifically related to trees. And so I think to the extent that tree planting, tree removal, and other things where the city does actually have an impact on sequestration, might be worth conversation topic. So I can follow up with you and see if we can brainstorm, maybe to have a speaker on that topic.
I can also provide in advance of the meeting our tree ordinance.
Yep.
So that we have that.
That was a big topic discussion. No, I was gonna say, like, a lot of the stuff under SAC1 was a topic of planning discussion, like, planning and you they know there's some intensely detailed work, like up and down the coast, like looking at all the towns and what their policies were. So, and as Greg can attest, like we get into long discussions about trees, like during development, and highly protected, impossible to take out essentially when trees are taken out. And that, you have to replant that. Of course, subsequently we started burning to death, right? So now we sort of like too much vegetation on this land, right? So there's been a bit of a push and a pull. So a lot of the stuff is captured by what the planning commission does. So they're pretty on top of that. GPWs doing taking out.
It's probably vegetation management.
Or is it part of like the, Measure C stuff that they're engaged in?
You know, it's open space.
I was just wondering, like,
Management?
yes.
Yeah.
Susan, did you have a comment?
Yeah. So a couple things I want to clarify. So the next meeting is May 18th, and that's going to merge Agenda 7 and 8. There's nothing between now and May 18th.
What did you say?
Are we saying the next meeting is May 18th, and that will cover Agenda 7 and Agenda 8 as outlined here?
Correct.
Okay. Then, and that's not been calendared yet, I don't think. It's not on my calendar.
No, it's not. But the only day that Chris Chu can make the meeting really is May 18th. So my suggestion would be that we have the meeting on May 18th.
Okay, that's fine. Then in terms of, I think you were, what we were sort of saying, are there other topics or things we want to make sure we cover? And from my perspective, one would be, and this was something that came up maybe in our first or second meeting, and we kind of agreed to circle back at the end. At least that was my impression, which was kind of what is our goal from an overall reduction perspective, and how much and by when. And, knowing that the next section of the cap gets into offsets, which reflects the target, the goal for reduction. Because, how much offset are you going to do? Knowing that Fairfax is using that to get to 100%, for example. I just would want to put someplace on this agenda a revisit of the goal. And then second, and I'm sure you probably, second, just also hearing Urban's point about like, what's our top 3 stay on message? It feels to me like we should have a formulated opinion about that, and that might require some discussion, and I'd be willing to work with any of you to figure out what we think the top 3 are and why. Make a recommendation around that, if that's something we think we should do.
As far as the answer to what can I do at the June agenda?
Yeah, but what can we do? Just individual action, but also collective action. Like, yes, like if nothing else, make sure that these things are happening.
So I think what we want to do, so the next meeting, we would concentrate on the other things that we haven't gotten to today. So sequestration, adaptation, implementation, and monitoring. And we'll have Chris Chu here, and then perhaps somebody else to speak around sequestration with trees, as Al was suggesting. And then in June, we would have the entire draft climate action plan. And at that point, I would have done the calculations, and we can see where we're at, and then we can talk about the overall goal. We can talk about, if we need to, increase carbon offsets, what that would look like, how much that would cost, that sort of thing, how we can accomplish that. So, so we'll go back and we'll revisit those broader things, the goals, and kind of identifying the top items that we want to really push, and we can highlight in the plan, and we can highlight in the general plan as well. So
that makes sense.
We'll do that in June.
Okay, I just note that in the attachment 4, offsets are in there, and that that is so closely linked to goal. So do we want to pull that out of attachment 4? It's not.
Well, there's a program in there to have carbon offsets, and then the amount of carbon offsets would be something that we could talk about in relationship to, as like we're talking, have identified what the target is for electric vehicles. And so I think let's look at the overall where we're at with the without carbon offsets, and so I'll do the quantification that way.
Perfect.
And then we can talk about what exactly we want to do with the carbon offset program. I think right now it's written as like encourage.
Yeah.
We can go back and revisit that.
Okay.
I have a question. So in June.
Oh, and sorry, just to finish off, as far as the top 3 or whatever, is that something that we'd want to try to address in one of these follow-on meetings as well?
Well, again, I think we need to look at the entire climate action plan and understand, what the quantifications are for each program, so that we can see what is most impactful and identify the top 3 at that point.
So maybe we want to include for the June agenda a prioritization topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just based on what times we've done it before, so the meeting in June, we'd be looking at a complete written copy of the report.
That's the idea. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that would be great.
We're just.
Danielle's like, well, I got something else I gotta do.
Well, we have housing elements that
Okay,
are
so
that
whatever,
do,
whether it's in June or July, I think we're going away to summer, we're all like wearing off airplanes, right? So we're going because we're only gonna walk to vacation. So, are you around this summer or? Okay, good. Everybody else around?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my bike only goes like 30 minutes, so I can do it. for- So, yeah, so Danielle, whenever, this summer, we'll go through, I guess my point was, about the second date is, I think it would be helpful, so communication is definitely important, people are gonna get a document, which is gonna be whatever, 50 pages long, and, they're gonna have a hard time getting through it, because they can't even read a notice in the flight bill. So having, some call outs, right, like, did you know, that kind of thing, I think, like, if we have that thing earlier, we can all work towards kind of adding in those things to kind of make it a really readable document, because, communication is gonna be like taking every single opportunity we've got to communicate the message out, right? So this document is the first step that we've got. And I think if we really put like a little bit of extra effort, and I don't mean you guys, I mean all of us, put effort into kind of helping get this document so it's readable, we call out things, we're highlighting things to make it, so that people would actually go through, then we've got actually like a little bit of a playbook for communicating out to the, the greater community later on, right? We're actually kind of doing work that we're gonna have to do anyway, so, that would be, I think, a fantastic way of kind of, capping this thing out.
I don't know if we would have that for the draft, but we would have that as it would go to study session and environmental review.
Yeah, so we
So
don't need to have it in the draft, I guess my point is, again. not to put the
Eventually.
work- Not to put the work on to you, it's to put the work onto all of us, right? So if we have the document, we can even have like a little placeholder, and I think it'll be obvious when we go through it, I'm kind of talk to Susan here. I think it'll be obvious where we want to have those things in there, right? So when we talk about transportation, I think having these things about like, hey, EVs aren't worse for the environment than, as my car, right? And so we can kind of dispel the myths, right? So myth busting. Just like, for example, like we've done myth busting on affordable housing, right? So a whole bunch of myths surrounding like property values and everything else, right? Right? So we just need to kind of hit that, purpose as well. So I think once we have that scaffold, we can all work on building that information. That makes sense?
Yeah, and so no disappointment from city council that we don't have the, not cumulative, I would say.
No. There's just so many things going on between like Bell Hamilton, new city manager search, this is things going on. I think it's better, frankly, and then we're gonna have a new council sitting, by, July. And, so I think we kind of target the new council.
The Green Council?
kind of better that way anyway. I think we just kind of like roll the thing to the, when we have to have this thing absolutely done by.
it's the housing element that has to be done by,
Yeah,
so
okay.
that,
So we have
that's
this
the
year,
issue.
Vicky, to do it,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So-
if you're willing, yeah.
I think
I'm sure.
we have to kind of acknowledge that the housing element is actually a legal document that has to be done, right? It has to be delivered to HDB in a certain day, so that takes the priority, so this thing might squirt into the bottom, right, easily.
Right.
But I think getting this thing right, and then once we have the housing element done, hopefully Hamilton Drive is kind of off to a happy place. East Blythedale, the worst part is done by, end of August, right? Then it just becomes the very bad part after that. People will be able to focus, I think, a little bit more on this. I think it'll be better. Also, just kind of like to your point, Al, on like climate emergency, what I discovered in my 2 strikes at trying to get this going. I think the time to do it is when it's purple air. And purple air is like September, right? So like when it's hot and flaming and things are burning, it's kind of like a perfect time to get people's attention. Now is not a good time to do it because it's wet and it's cool, right? And it's foggy and misty. So I would recommend, I think we can do all this time. I would recommend doing it when, when it looks like we really are in peril, right? And I feel like, yeah, SHIT, we're in peril, right? It's like I can just look outside, barely see across the street. So that would be my recommendation. That makes sense? Right on.
Okay, so June meeting, potentially in July, August,
Well, after housing,
Right.
but we can all get together.
and then.
Christine,
we
are
possibly-
we one of the more difficult customers? Since you're the last one on the list?
I mean, we could do a.
You're just the most passionate.
We could do an event to just get together, right? You don't have to, take up Danielle's time just to kind of go through and kind of like brainstorm out some of these myth busting things, right? We can kind of get that going. We can work on that over the summer, right? And slide it into the document, so.
Right, because you do have the background information and you will have the sections that are approved.
Yeah.
So you definitely could make a task force of, splitting up maybe like you did before. If those interested in transportation can take some time and talk about those things that, you want to put in those highlighted sections. That would be a great use of time.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah,
Or not
sounds good.
around that, so.
I think we determined that we're not step from it. We're kind of a temporary group.
I don't know, if you want to get together to work on putting aspects in a draft, I think that would
Ron
be
actually
okay.
relates to organizations that are in a position to make a decision, right? And this is just a 5-year group, so I think that's it.
Thanks, great.
Right, and really, there's, make up this committee, one council, one commissioner. I think, looking at parallel, housing advisory committee, and in that regard, housing advisory committee, I believe, or recall, the city attorney advised that, Ron applied, but this committee, this is advisory, so you get correct, and that it's advisory, not a decision-making body. Subject to, of course, these meetings are publicly noticed, so, you're bound by certain requirements. But yeah, if you want to get together, I think that is okay.
Yeah, I need to look at one kind of document that will be better about look, right? So,
In the interest of climate action.
yeah. We're gonna do everything without paper. But this chairwoman,
Yeah.
bringing your thing, which is gonna get thrown into
Exactly.
the paper that's already just like post-its or waste paper.
Shaming and everything. Okay, so we're gonna make a motion. Right?
No, you haven't. Yes, no, you haven't. Did you, I think you already accepted, you already did. Yeah, I don't know if you made a motion, but that's okay. You all accepted it. So I think we just need to.
So we're going to meeting adjourned.
Great.
It's 8:50.
Thank you, Susan. Oh, and should we talk about quickly, do we want to go back to Zoom for May 18th or do we want to be in person? I know all of you wanted to get together to celebrate Earth Day a bit, but should we just go back to Zoom? What do you want to do?
This is great to see everybody, but I felt like, I guess I'll just say for myself, we didn't get in public and we seem to always get public on Zoom. And I would like to hear what Susan's experience was, but I think that was probably a bit of a challenge hearing everything. I would vote for Zoom or like every other or something, but if you
Based on the public attendance record, I think Zoom might be a better option.
Hey, you got your.
what do you guys?
You guys decide. Like you guys
I
decide,
mean,
that's fine.
I've finally gone from Zoom planning commission meetings to back into in the city hall, so that's nice, and it's great to see everybody, because that was kind of a strange start, and so it's great, but I think, I don't know, the breakout rooms, the public, there are some advantages if you're trying to get community involvement, but it is great to have something again.
I'm tired of Zoom, and I like seeing people, and the public has been Marilyn and one other person thus far. And since we're finalizing all of this now,
Susan, what is your?
I am preferring, this was fine with me, this hybrid. So if we need to do hybrid, that's fine. I guess I would only ask that just people keep speaking into their mics. I'm not really, I'm pretty much still avoiding indoor without mask as much as possible. So for me, I'm probably just going to stay on Zoom until I feel more confident about that.
Thank you.
How do you feel about flying on airplanes without masks?
All right, I'll let you guys know. Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, you get it right too.
Let's see what Susan
Yeah, we
said.
need somebody, they can executive.
I'm going to actually circle back with Chris Chu and see if it matters to her, since we want her as a speaker, and I think she'll be a great speaker. I really would like her to talk about some adaptations, so we'll ask her and I'll get back to you. Thank you, Susan. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Nice to be
Bye.
with you. Bye-bye.